Well, welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson. Of course, on our show, we discuss so many of the issues facing boomers, their parents, and what we know, of course, is an aging population. And I want to just thank everybody again for all your support. So many of you have gone on to iTunes, iHeartRadio, and just signed up and been getting all the podcasts. Many of you have just downloaded the free app on your iPhone or Android phone, or some just go directly to our website at agingboomers.com. So thanks so much for your support. We continue to have wonderful guests, and we have another great one today. But before I introduce her, I'd like to remind everybody that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, a professional senior placement and elder care consulting organization that has a national network of advisors to help in determining the right path for senior living and receiving proper care. So whether you just need an advocate or assistance within home care, assisted living, residential, or memory care, get the necessary advice from a senior care advisor in your area by calling Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you could go directly to the website at www.seniorcareauthority.com. As I mentioned, we have another great guest today. We have with us Danette Mann. Danette is a licensed professional counselor based in Dallas who integrates mindfulness into her counseling practice. This is reflected in the name of her website, which is livingbetterwithmindfulness.com. Her belief is that mindfulness can help baby boomers with stage of life issues, which Danette will tell us a little bit more on that subject. So Danette, welcome to the Aging Boomers. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so stage of life, I think we might assume, I think I know what it means, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you mean by stage of life.
Well, we go through different stages from the time we're born till we die. But, of course, what we're talking about today is mostly those changes that begin to occur when the last child leaves the house, goes to college, or is fully employed. Maybe we're transitioning out of the workplace, or at least to a lesser role. We might be dealing with elderly parents, and we might be dealing with our own issues, both medically and relationally. Transitions are stressful, they're difficult, and they sometimes then create other kinds of problems. So it can be a really tough time. I think especially from that moment when the kids start to get old enough to not be in the home as much. It just seems like things start to transition, and not always in the way that we would like.
I remember when I have two children, and when my youngest left for college, my wife, I guess, was going through that stage of life, but took it out on me. So I'm sure many have gone through that as well. It's just, that's part of life, I guess.
Well, it is, and because stress is involved, even if it's something that at the end, later on down the road, we feel like it worked out for the best. Initially, if you look at all the research, any change is stressful, and so our initial reaction is our brain goes negative, and we try to avoid it. We try to, we have a, why is this happening to me? Resistance or denial, and sometimes we need a scapegoat. So
yeah,
it's hard to carry it all by ourselves, so we pass it along.
You mentioned that it's happening to me. In your practice, you must hear that quite often, where someone comes to you and says, I can't believe this is happening to me. This is supposed to happen to other people, not me.
Yes.
So what advice do you give them?
I give them, first of all, the permission to feel sad, to feel bad about it, and to recognize that this is a difficult thing and that it is stress and that the brain does have a negativity bias. But I also let them know that it is something that does happen to everyone. Suffering is part of life, and that mindfulness is a way that we can learn to accept rather than resist inevitable things that happen to us. And so if they're open to it, I try to give them some mindfulness skills that help them do the transition in a way that feels better to them and lowers their stress, because that helps their health and helps not only their experience of the transition go better, but it also prevents other kinds of problems like health issues showing up.
You mentioned a couple times there the term mindfulness. Help us understand the difference between maybe mindfulness and meditation, which I know you promote quite a bit. Maybe the difference in each. Help us understand both those terms a little better.
I'm actually very glad you asked that, because I do think there's a lot of questions that people have about the two, and are they the same thing, and do they go together, or kind of what's the deal? So I appreciate being able to expand on that. Mindfulness is very basically being in the present moment fully and optimally without any judgment. So rather than being in your head. So an example would be, I walk my dogs in the morning, and I try, I'm not always successful, but a mindful walk would just be noticing what kind of weather we were having and how it feels on your skin. Noticing the trees and the colors and any flowers that might be blooming, or in the winter, how things look cold, and noticing how that affects you physically. And you would be doing that rather than rehearsing a conversation in your head about something that you think is going to not go so well, or worrying about something that you said or did the day before, and now you're regretting it and wondering how to fix it. Those are mindless things, and mindfulness is really not doing that, not letting your brain go somewhere else, but stay right where you are. And meditation, because our brains are designed to want to move around and stay very busy, we need to train them. Just like an athlete that wants to train to swim has to practice swimming, if we want our brain to stay in the present moment as much as possible, then the brain needs to be trained, and meditation is one of the best ways to do that. So meditation is strictly a practice in which you focus your mind in order to train your brain to stay where you want it to be. Our brain has changed a lot through evolution, and we don't get new brains, we get additions to the brain. So we still have that survival first part of the brain that's called the reptilian part, and it's what's constantly looking for what's going to get us in trouble, where's the danger. So it's the part that looked for where the tiger was. It might want to have us for lunch. But as our world has changed, the number of potential tigers has risen exponentially. Someone cutting too close for our comfort into our lane on the freeway, for instance, is now a tiger. So because our brain scans for danger every 4 seconds, we really need to train it to go back to being mindful as frequently as we can, and that's where meditation comes in.
So can you give us maybe an example or two of the benefit behind meditation as a path to living a more mindful life? Maybe a couple examples. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that very clearly. Did you say something about benefits? No, behind examples of the benefit behind meditation as a path to living a more mindful life. So maybe just a couple examples of what you mean.
Okay. Well, one benefit I think for me is when I slow down to do the meditation, it's like I'm reminding myself that I can go slow, and that I don't have to be in a rush all day long, and that my body likes that. I actually function better when I'm able to sit and notice things rather than just being in my head. So I think when you slow down, not only does the day go better, but you're enjoying the moment more. So when you're not doing meditation and you are being mindful, if you're in a meeting, you can pay attention and enjoy the benefits of the meeting rather than worrying about when you're going to be asked to speak up. Or if you're playing with grandchildren, you get to enjoy the kids in a different way than if you're worrying about what you're going to fix them for lunch, for instance. So that's one benefit, I think. I also think that we feel calmer and safer and more relaxed. Stress by nature makes us feel less safe, and meditation brings back that. It's actually part of the central nervous system that makes us feel safe and connected to people, and that's when we are happiest. And we know that through research as well. That's when we can connect better with people, to our lives, to ourselves. I also think another benefit would be just, when we're not resisting and focusing on the bad stuff that happens to us, we have more energy and we have more positiveness. So that's a few. Bottom line is life becomes more joyful and novel. We look at things with fresh eyes.
Yeah. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe I'm in the majority, I don't know. But I guess when I sometimes think of meditation, I think of somebody sitting in maybe a yoga-style position and in a nice quiet room with eyes closed. But that's not the only type of meditation. I mean, maybe describe various types of meditation.
Well, you're right. And I would say by far the most common way of meditating is to try to be in a quiet place where you can sit and notice your body in space and not be disturbed. So that is a great asset, I think. If people can do that, and on a regular basis is when you get the most results. But yes, they have. You can be mindful in moments. There's such a thing as walking meditation. There's laying down meditations. There's, I have an app on my phone that it has this very nice little ring, and I can set it for how often I want it to go off. And when I hear that ring, it's a reminder to me that I'm just going to spend a moment, and usually that's all I have is a moment, and I'm just going to check in with my body, and I'm going to notice if I've got an emotion coming up, if my body is comfortable or uncomfortable, and I'm going to notice those things so that I can be aware of them and then present with what I need to be doing next rather than allowing them to get in the way. I have a 12-minute little meditation on my phone that just has me flexing my body and stretching a little bit just to kind of notice how I'm feeling and doing things to make myself feel better, either emotionally or physically. And it's 12 minutes, so if I get at the end of my lunch break, if I want to do something like that before I start my afternoon, I can do that. So there's many ways to do this.
I would think that maybe, just like exercise, the biggest challenge, we all know we should exercise and exercise more, but it's the consistency and doing it, every day or every other day or whatever the case may be. Many times we exercise and we're focused for a couple months and then boom, it stops. Is that similar with meditation?
Oh, absolutely. You'll get the best benefits from a daily practice, and optimally I'd say 20 minutes, but I wouldn't start there. And there are times when it will be harder, and times when it will feel easier. And working through that, just like you work through an exercise routine, is an important part to this. But the other thing about it is you can do it, you can make it fit for you. So there'll be recommendations like I would recommend to somebody, okay, it's usually best in the morning or right before bed, 15 minutes, do it this way. That might be the most recommended or the most common. But if that doesn't work for a person, they're free to do whatever works for them. So if the morning or the evening does not work, if they only have 5 minutes to start, if they want to do it in their car before they leave. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. Like when I first started trying to do more meditation and mindfulness, one of the ways that I got better at it was I decided to take 3 deep breaths every time I got in my car during the day, and then 3 deep breaths before I got out of the car. And so those were moments during the day when I would remind myself of this practice, just so that it would become more easy to remember and become natural. So, there's, it's like anything. They actually have stages that they say people go through with this. There's the excitement phase, and then the disillusionment phase, and then the phase that you get to where you realize the long-term benefits. You're seeing them, you're experiencing them, and you're committed. It's like, I guess, most things in life. To get to the good part, you have to know that there's going to be some struggle.
Right. You got me thinking here, and maybe I'm going to be putting you on the spot a little bit, and I've never done this on our show, but maybe you could run us through a little meditation session for our listeners. What do you think? Is that possible?
Oh, of course it's possible. That will show how easy it is. So here's what I would recommend.
Okay.
As I understand it, you have people who are possibly sitting down but may not be, maybe driving or maybe walking.
Right.
So for those who are driving, you can certainly listen just to kind of get an idea. What you might do in terms of thinking of it as a meditation is just notice your hands on the wheel, or just modify it to make sure you're staying awake and aware of the road, or not pay attention to this part and go back to it later. Walking, you can do it as a walking meditation, and certainly if you're in a place where you can sit quietly and won't be disturbed, that would be the best. So how does that sound?
That's perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. So it may feel like a long time. How much time do we have?
What do you need? 5 minutes? How much time do you need? Is that?
I was thinking 5, but
5?
I didn't know if we had that much time.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay. So let's make it, what I'd like to do is 5 minutes, and I think one thing that if you're not familiar with meditation, you will realize how long 5 minutes can actually be when you are simply being rather than doing. And that in itself, I think, is an important learning, that life can be slowed down and can be full of things that can happen in a short period of time. So we'll do 5 minutes, and I will do guided. If you're just starting out in meditation, I highly recommend that you start with guided meditations before you try to do them on your own with no guidance. And that can be CDs. It doesn't have to be, in person, but just to have total silence can be very hard to keep your mind focused. Guided meditations make it easier. So I'll do a guided meditation, and at the end, you'll hear the sound of my bells, and that will indicate that you want to come back into the room and kind of open your eyes if you've closed them, reorient yourself, and just pay attention and kind of notice where you are, how you feel, and emotionally, and how you feel physically.
Great. And then maybe right after, I still have a couple follow-up questions for you, if that's okay. But I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay. All right, so if you're, we're just going to do this as if you are sitting down, and you can make those adjustments as necessary. So sit with your, in a comfortable position, but in an upright position. That helps you stay awake. You might notice your feet on the floor. Kind of want to ground yourself. So noticing what you're sitting on and how that feels, feeling supported by the couch or the chair or the floor, wherever you happen to be. And start by taking a few very slow, deep breaths with a longer out-breath than an in-breath. And the reason for that is we go into that more relaxed stage physically when our out-breath is longer. It puts us in that safe, relaxed part of the central nervous system. So try that for 2 or 3 breaths, breathing in, breathing out. And as you do, notice any changes that might occur in your sense of comfort level in your body. Now, take a moment to just do a short scan from the top of your head, slowly moving down your body. Don't forget your face, your mouth, your neck, your shoulders, arms, hands, fingers, torso, stomach, upper legs, knees, lower legs, feet and toes, and just notice what you notice. If you see tension in any part of your body, take a breath and let the breath breathe into that part that's feeling tense. And just notice, without expecting anything to change, just notice if there is a change. With meditation, we are not trying to achieve anything other than to keep our focus where we are choosing to keep it focused. So there's no doing it wrong. There's no getting it right. It just is what it is. So you may feel a relaxation in that part of the body, or you might not. There may be parts of your body that feel really good, and you might enjoy just sticking around with that part and enjoying the fact that you feel so good. Noticing that as something that you don't want to miss. And when you've done that, go back to your breath and let it find its own rhythm, whatever's natural for you. And to make it easier to stay focused on the breath, you might say the word in as you breathe in, and out as you breathe out. And if you want to extend the word so that you're saying it for the entire length of the in-breath and the entire length of the out-breath, that can help you keep your brain focused on your breath. So do that for a few minutes. Our breath is always there. It does its job without any effort on our part. It's vital to us, and yet it's so natural. It's always there, always providing us with what we need. And then you might just take a moment to check in emotionally and see if there's a particular emotion that's coming up. if there is, can you notice where in your body you feel that emotion? Some of us carry emotion in different places: neck, head, shoulders, stomach, legs. And if you find stress or an emotion that's showing up in a particular place, see if you can allow that rather than trying to change it or move it, but simply letting it be what it is. Knowing that it will change. Nothing ever stays the same. And this part of the practice actually helps us tolerate pain more easily. So now take another deep breath. Bring yourself back into the room or wherever you are and get ready to hear the bell.
Well, I'm certainly more relaxed.
I'm glad to hear it. I am too.
Great, that was great. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for letting me.
Great. So I know, Danette, you're based in the Dallas area, and why don't you just, first of all, remind people, I know I briefly mentioned it in the introduction, how people can learn more about, your services and your consulting practice, and also on top of that, how people might be able to find resources in other parts of the country. So why don't you go ahead and share with people your information?
Okay. Well, I am in the Dallas area. I am a therapist primarily, but the practice of both mindfulness and self-compassion, or for teenagers we call it making friends with yourself, which I think makes more sense for adults as well. But those are key elements to my practice. The self-compassion piece is an addition to the meditation and mindfulness, because it is showing even more benefits to the practice. And so I also do presentations, I do trainings locally. SMU has an adult educational program where you can take classes of self-interest, and this one's even considered part of business to take my classes. And so I do a self-care, mindfulness self-care class 2 or 3 times a year through that SMU program. I facilitate meditations at a museum in the local Dallas area on occasion, and do some things for children and some groups. So those are the things that I'm doing, and I'm doing more and more of them. I'm about to run my first mindful self-compassion course, which is very similar to MBSR, which is, I think, a better known program, and that stands for Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. That's been around since the 70s, and it was started by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, and was started in a hospital. So the MBSR programs and trainers for that are much more prevalent in the country than the mindful self-compassion piece that I do. And I'm thinking that if you want a practice or an introduction where you can do it with a group and have the discipline of going to a place and learning more about this, finding a local MBSR class might be a really good way to get started. If you don't want to do that, I would suggest CDs to do your own meditations, because they're guided and you can try different kinds and find the ones that work for you, because not all meditation practices are going to be right for everybody. So John Kabat-Zinn has several. Other people have them as well. There are books by people that would be a way to learn more about the science behind it and what's actually happening in the brain. And then those books also then have practices that you can try yourself. So Jon Kabat-Zinn would be another source for that. There's a man named Dan Harris who's written a book called 10% Happier that I think is really good for people that are coming out of a high-stress corporate environment, because that was what he was in, and he didn't trust it, he didn't believe in it, and it's his true story, so it's really cool. Dan Siegel has done a lot of work with mindfulness and attachment in the brain. And then Tara Brach is very well known. She has books, and she has CDs as well. And then there are apps that you can buy on your phone, and there are 3 that I think are particularly good. So I'll mention those. The first one is called Insight Timer. It has lots of options. I really like it. And you can even choose the sound of the bells that you use, and you can personalize it a lot. That's a good one. Another one is Calm, C-A-L-M. That's an app. And then the other one is just, the name of it is Mindfulness. And all of those, I think, give people different ways to use it in a way that works for their life, their day, and their personal preferences. So I think there's something out there for everybody. It's just whatever you're most interested in trying first.
Great. Well, Danette, you've been a wealth of information. It's been I've really enjoyed this. So thank you so much for joining us. Check out Danette's website, livingbetterwithmindfulness.com. Love to have you back in the future, Danette. I hope you'll join us in the future again.
Okay. Thank
right,
you.
A lot to discuss, I know, on this subject matter.
Yes,
so,
more to come.
Yeah, so thank you very much, and I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Aging Boomers. Just be safe out there, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.